All right. I think I'm going to do another Bible reading. Let's back out. $16. Yep. Okay. First Samuel, chapter 8. When Samuel had grown old, he appointed his sons as judges for Israel. The name of his firstborn son was Joel, and the name of his second, Abijah. They were the judges in Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They were inclined to pursue dishonest profit, they accepted bribes, and they perverted justice. In time, all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "Look, you have grown old, but your sons are not walking in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the other nations." But it displeased Samuel when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." When Samuel prayed to Jehovah, and Jehovah said to Samuel, "Listen to everything the people say to you, for it is not you whom they have rejected, but it is I whom they have rejected as their king. They are doing just as they have done from the day I brought them out of Egypt until this day. They keep forsaking me and serving other gods, and that is what they are doing to you. Now listen to them. However, you should solemnly warn them, tell them that the king who rules over them will have the right to demand." So Samuel told the people who were asking him for a king all the words of Jehovah. So Samuel told the people who were asking him for a king all the words of Jehovah. God, that totally did not click in my head till now. Okay. He said, "This is what the king who rules over you will have the right to demand. He will take your sons and put them in his chariots and make them his horsemen, and some will have to run before his chariots. And he will appoint for himself chiefs over thousands and chiefs over fifties, and some will do his plowing, reap his harvest, and make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be ointment mixers, cooks, and bakers. He will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, and your olive groves, and he will give them to his servants. He will take the tenth of your grain fields and your vineyards, and he will give it to his court officials and his servants. And he will take your male and female servants, your best herds, and your donkeys, and he will use them for his work. He will take the tenth of your flocks, and you will become his servants. The day will come when you will cry out because of the king you have chosen for yourselves, but Jehovah will not answer you in that day." However, the people refused to listen to what Samuel told them, and they said, "No, we are determined to have a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, and our king will judge us and lead us and fight our battles." After Samuel heard all the words of the people, he repeated them in the hearing of Jehovah. Jehovah said to Samuel, "Listen to them, and appoint a king to reign over them." Samuel then said to the men of Israel, "Each of you should return to his city." 1 Samuel 9. There was a man of Benjamin named Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, a Benjaminite, and a very wealthy man. He had a son named Saul, who was young and handsome. There was no man among the Israelites more handsome than he, and he stood head and shoulders taller than all the people. When the donkeys belonging to Saul's father Kish got lost, Kish said to his son Saul, "Please take with you one of the attendants and go look for the donkeys." They passed through the mountainous region of Ephraim and through the lands of Shalisha. And they did not find them. They traveled through the land of Shalim, but the donkeys were not there. They passed through the entire land of the Benjaminites, and they did not find them. They came into the land of Zuph, And Saul said to his attendant who was with him, "Come, let us return so that my father does not start worrying about us rather than the donkeys." But the attendant replied, "Look, there is a man of God in this city, a man who is held in honor. All that he says is sure to come true. Let us go there now. Perhaps he can tell us which way to go." At this, Saul said to his attendant, "If we go, what can we take to the man? There is no bread in our bags. There is nothing to take as a gift to the man, to the true God. What do we have?" So the attendant answered Saul again, "Look, there is a quarter of a shekel of silver in my hand. I will give it to the man of the true God, and he will tell us which way to go." In former times in Israel, this is what a man would say when going to seek God. "Come, let us go to the seer, for the prophet of today used to be called a seer in former times." Then Saul said to his attendant, "What you said is good. Let us go." So they went to the city where the man of the true God was. While they were going up the ascent to the city, they met girls going out to draw water. So they said to them, "Is the seer in this place?" They answered, "He is. Look, he is just ahead of you. Hurry now, for today he has come to the city, because the people are making a sacrifice today on the high place. As soon as you come into the city, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. The people will not eat until he comes, for he is the one who blesses the sacrifice. Once that is done, those who are invited may eat. So now go up right away, and you will find him." So they went up to the city. As they were coming into the middle of the city, there was Samuel coming out to meet them, to go up to the high place. The day before Saul came, Jehovah had told Samuel, "Tomorrow about this time I will send to you a man from the land of Benjamin. You must anoint him as leader over my people Israel, and he will save my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have seen the affliction of my people, and their outcry has reached me." When Samuel saw Saul, Jehovah told him, "There is the man of whom I said to you, this is the one who will govern my people." Then Saul approached Samuel in the middle of the gate and said, "Tell me, please, where is the house of the seer?" Samuel answered Saul, "I am the seer. Go up ahead of me to the high place, and you will eat with me today. I will send you away in the morning, and I will tell you all that you want to know. As for the donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not worry about them, for they have been found. And to does all that whom does all that is desirable of Israel belong? Is it not you and to the whole house of your father?" At this Saul answered, "Am I not a Benjaminite of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the most insignificant of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? So why have you spoken to me in this way?" Then Samuel took Saul and his attendant and brought them to the dining hall and gave them a place at the head of those invited. There were about 30 men. Samuel said to the cook, "Bring the portion that I gave you and told you, set it aside." At that, the cook lifted up the leg and what was on it, and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, "What has been reserved has been set before you. Eat, because they have reserved it for you for this occasion. For I told them, I invited guests." So Saul ate with Samuel on that day. Then they went down from the high place to the city, and he continued to speak with Saul on the housetop. They rose early, and at daybreak Samuel called to Saul on the housetop, saying, "Get ready, so that I may send you away." So Saul got ready, and both he and Samuel went outside. While they were descending toward the outskirts of the city, Samuel said to Saul, Tell the attendant to go on ahead of us." So he went on ahead, "But you, stand still now, so that I may let you hear the word of God." First Samuel 10. Samuel then took the flask of oil and poured it out on Saul's head. He kissed him and said, "Has not Jehovah anointed you as a leader over his inheritance? When you leave me today, you will find 2 men near the tomb of Rachel in the territory of Benjamin at Zelzah, and they will say to you, 'The donkeys that you went to look for have been found.' But now your father has forgotten about the donkeys and is worried about you. He is saying, 'What should I do about my son?' Go on from there until you come to the big tree of Tabor, where you will meet 3 men going up to the true God at Bethel. one carrying 3 young goats, one carrying 3 loaves of bread, and one carrying a large jar of wine. They will ask about your welfare and give you 2 loaves, and you must accept the loaves from them. After that, you will come to the hill of the true God, where there is a garrison of the Philistines. When you come to the city, you will meet a group of prophets coming down from the high place, and a stringed instrument and a tambourine and a flute and a harp will be played ahead of them while they are prophesying. The Spirit of Jehovah will empower you, and you will prophesy along with them and be changed into a different person. When these signs have taken place, do whatever your hands finds possible, because the true God is with you. Then go down ahead of me to Gilgal, and I will go down to you there to offer up burnt sacrifices and communion. Communion sacrifices. You should wait for 7 days until I come to you. Then I will. Excuse me. Then I will let you know what you should do. Wow, that was intense. As soon as Saul turned around to leave, God began chanting in his heart to be like that of someone else. And all these signs came true on that day. Sorry. So they went from there to the hill, and a group of prophets met him. At once the Spirit of God empowered him, and he began to prophesy among them. When all those who previously knew him saw him prophesying with the prophets, they said to one another, "What has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets?" Then a man from there said, "But who is their father?" So it became a saying, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" When he finished prophesying, he came to the high place. The brother of Saul's father later took him oh wow, I transformed to look to took in the sentence below. Okay, Saul's father later said to him and to his attendant, "Where did you go?" At that he said, "To look for donkeys. But we saw that we were not there, so we went to Samuel." Saul's uncle asked, "Please tell me, what did Samuel say to you?" Saul replied to his uncle, "He told us that the donkeys had already been found, but Saul did not tell him what Samuel said about the matter of the kingship." Samuel then called the people together to Jehovah at Mizpah and said to the Israelites, "This is what Jehovah, the God of Israel, says. It was I who brought Israel up out of Egypt, and who rescued you from the hand of Egypt and from the hand of all the kingdoms that were oppressing you. But today you have rejected your God, who was your Savior out of all your evils and distresses, and you said, 'No, you should appoint a king over us.' Now take your stand before Jehovah by your tribes and by your thousands." So Samuel had all the tribes of Israel draw near, and the tribe of Benjamin was selected. Then he had the tribe of Benjamin draw near by its families, and the family of the Matrites was selected. Finally, Saul, the son of Kish, was selected. But when they went to look for him, he was nowhere to be found. So they inquired of Jehovah, "Was the man come here yet?" Jehovah answered, "There he is, hiding himself among the luggage." So they ran and brought him from there. When he stood in the middle of the people, I'm sorry. When he stood in the middle of the people, he was head and shoulders taller than all the other people. Samuel said to all the people, "Do you see the one whom Jehovah has chosen? That there is no one or none like him among all the people?" And all the people began to shout, "Long live the king!" Samuel spoke to the people about the rightful due of kings and wrote it in a book and deposited it before Jehovah. Then Samuel sent all the people away, everyone to his house. Saul also went to his home in Gibeah, accompanied by the warriors whose hearts Jehovah had touched. But some worthless men said, "How will this one save us?" So they despised him, and they did not bring any gift to him, but he said nothing about it. 1 Samuel 11. Then Nahash the Ammonite came up and camped against Jabesh in Gilead. All the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, "Make a covenant with us, and we will serve you." Nahash the Ammonite said to them, "I will make it with you on this condition, that all your right eyes be bored out. I will do this to humiliate all Israel." The elders of Jabesh replied to him, "Give us 7 days' time so that we can send messengers into all the territory of Israel. Then, if there is no one to rescue us, we will surrender to you." In time, the messengers came to Gibeah of Saul and spoke those words in the hearing of the people, and all the people wept at the top of their voice. But Saul was coming from the field behind the herd, and Saul said, "What is the matter with the people? Why are they weeping?" So they related to him the words of the men of Jabesh. The Spirit of God empowered Saul when he heard these words, and he burned with anger. So he took a pair of bulls and cut them into pieces, and he sent these into all the territory of Israel by the hand of the messengers, who said, "Whoever does not follow Saul and Samuel should expect this to be done to his cattle." And the fear of Jehovah fell upon the people, so that they came out with one accord. Then he counted them in Bezek, and there were 300,000 Israelites and 30,000 men of Judah. They now said to the messengers who had come, "This is what you should say to the men of Jabesh in Gilead. Tomorrow when the sun gets hot, you will be saved." With that, the messengers came and told the men of Jabesh, and they were overjoyed. So the men of Jabesh said, "Tomorrow we will surrender to you, and you may do to whatever to us seems good to you." On the next day, Saul divided the people into 3 bands, and they made their way into the middle of the camp during the morning watch and struck down the Ammonites until the day grew hot. Those who survived were scattered, so that no two of them were left together. Then the people said to Samuel, who was saying, "Is Saul to be king over us?" Sorry. "Hand the men over, and we will put them to death." However, Saul said, "Not a man should be put to death on this day, for today Jehovah has rescued Israel." Samuel later said to the people, "Come, and let us go to Gilgal to reconfirm the kingship." So all the people went to Gilgal, and in Gilgal they made Saul king before Jehovah. Then they offered communion sacrifices there before Jehovah, and Saul and all the men of Israel celebrated with great joy. 1 Samuel 12. Finally Samuel said to all Israel, "Here I have done all that you have asked of me, and I appointed a king to reign over you. Now here is the king who is leading you. As for me, I have grown old and gray, and my sons are here with you, and I have led you from my youth until this day. Here I am. Testify against me before Jehovah and before his anointed one, whose bull or whose donkey I have taken, or whom I have defrauded or crushed. From whose hand have I accepted a bribe to make me look the other way? If I have, I will restore it to you. To this day, to this, they said, you have not defrauded us or crushed us or accepted anything at all from anyone's hand. So he said to them, Jehovah is a witness against you, and his anointed one is a witness to this day that you have found nothing to accuse me of. To this they said, he is a witness. So Samuel said to the people, Jehovah, who used Moses and Aaron, and who brought your forefathers up out of the land of Egypt, is a witness. And now take your positions, and I will judge you before Jehovah in view of all the righteous acts that Jehovah has done for you and for your forefathers. As soon as Jacob had come into Egypt and your forefathers began calling to Jehovah for help, Jehovah sent Moses and Aaron to lead your forefathers out of Egypt and to cause them to dwell in this place. But they forgot Jehovah, their God, and sold them into the hands of Sisera, the chief of the army, Hazor. Hold on one sec. Ouch. Okay. As soon as Jacob had come into Egypt and your forefathers began calling Jehovah for help, Jehovah sent Moses and Aaron to lead your forefathers out of Egypt and to cause them to dwell in this place. But they forgot Jehovah their God, and he sold them into the hands of Sisera, the chief of the army of Hazor, and into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. And they called to Jehovah for help, and said, We have sinned, for we have left Jehovah to serve the Baals and the Ashtaroth images. Now rescue us out of the hand of our enemies, so that we may serve you. Then Jehovah sent Jerubbaal and Badan and Jephthah and Samuel, and rescued you from the hands of the enemies all around you, so that you could live in security. When you saw that Nahash, the king of the Ammonites, had come against you, you kept saying to me, No, we are determined to have a king over us, even though Jehovah, your God, is your king. Now here is the king whom you have chosen, and one you asked for. Look, Jehovah has appointed a king over you. If you fear Jehovah and serve him and obey his voice, and you do not rebel against the order of Jehovah, and both you and the king who reigns over you follow Jehovah your God, fine. But if you do not obey the voice of Jehovah, and you rebel against the order of Jehovah, and the hand of Jehovah will be against you and your fathers. Now take your positions and see this great thing that Jehovah is doing before your eyes. Is it not the wheat harvest today? I will call on Jehovah to make it thunder and rain. Then know and understand what an evil thing you have done in the eyes of Jehovah in asking for a king for yourselves. At that Samuel called to Jehovah, and Jehovah made it thunder and rain on that day, so that all the people were greatly in fear of Jehovah and of Samuel. And all the people said to Samuel, Pray to Jehovah your God for your servants, as we do not want to die. For we have added to all our sins another evil by asking for a king. So Samuel said to the people, Do not be afraid. You have indeed done all this evil. Only do not turn away from following Jehovah, and serve Jehovah with all your heart. Do not turn away to follow the empty things, which are of no benefit, and cannot rescue because they are empty. For the sake of his great name, Jehovah will not abandon his people, for Jehovah has taken it upon himself to make you his people. As for me, it is unthinkable for me to sin against Jehovah by ceasing to pray in your behalf, and I will continue to instruct you in the good and right way. Only fear Jehovah and serve him faithfully and with all your heart, for see what great things he has done for you. There we go. Okay. Samuel said to the people, Do not be afraid. You have indeed done all this evil. Only do not turn away from following Jehovah. Serve Jehovah with all your heart. Do not turn away to follow the empty things which are of no benefit and cannot rescue because they are empty. For the sake of his great name, Jehovah will not abandon his people, for Jehovah has taken it upon himself to make you his people. As for me, it is unthinkable for me to sin against Jehovah by ceasing to pray in your behalf, and I will continue to instruct you in the good way only for Jehovah. But if you frequently do what is bad, you will be swept away, both you and your king. Okay, next one, 1 Samuel 13. Saul was years old when he became king, and for 2 years he reigned over Israel. Saul chose 3,000 men out of Israel. 2,000 of these were with Saul at Michmash and in the mountainous region of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeah of Benjamin. He sent the rest of the people away, each one to his tent. Then Jonathan struck down the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard about it. And Saul had the horn blown throughout all the land, saying, Let the Hebrews hear. All Israel heard the news. Saul has struck down a garrison of the Philistines, and now Israel has become a stench among the Philistines. So the people were summoned to follow Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines also gathered together to fight against Israel. With 30,000 war chariots and 6,000 horsemen and troops as numerous as the grains of sand on the seashore, and they went up and camped at Michmash to the east of Bethaven. And the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble because they were hard pressed. So the people hid in the caves, the hollows, the crags, the cellars, and the cisterns. Some of the Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. But Saul was still in Gilgal, and all the people following him were trembling. He continued waiting for 7 days until the designated time that Samuel had set. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. Finally, Saul said, "Bring me to the burnt sacrifice of the communion sacrifices, and be offered up the burnt sacrifice." But as soon as he had finished offering up the burnt sacrifice, Samuel arrived. So Saul went out to meet him and blessed him. Then Samuel said, "What have you done?" What have you done? Saul replied, "I saw that the people were deserting me, and you did not come within the designated time, and the Philistines were gathering together at Michmash. So I said to myself, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the favor of Jehovah, so I felt obligated to offer up the burnt sacrifice." At this Samuel said to Saul, "You have acted foolishly. You have not obeyed the commandment that Jehovah your God gave you. If you had, Jehovah would have made your kingdom firm over Israel forever. But now your kingdom will not last. Jehovah will find a man agreeable to his heart, and Jehovah will commission him as a leader over his people, because you did not obey what Jehovah commanded you." Then Samuel arose and went his way from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin, and Saul took the count of the people. Those still with him were about 600 men. Saul, his son Jonathan, and the people still with them were dwelling in Gibeah of Benjamin, and the Philistines had encamped at Michmash. And the raiding parties would go out from the camp of the Philistines in 3 bands. One band would turn toward the road to Ophrah, to the land of Shual. Another band would turn toward the road of Betharon, and the third band would turn toward the road leading to the boundary that overlooks the valley of Zeboim, toward the wilderness. Okay. Now there was not a metal worker to be found in all the land of Israel, because the Philistines had said, "So that the Hebrews may not take a sword or a spear." And all the Israelites had to go down to the Philistines to get their plowshares, mattocks, axes, or sickles sharpened. The price for sharpening was a pim, for the plowshares, for the mattocks, for the 3-toothed instruments, for the axes, and for fixing the ox goad. And on the day of battle, not a sword or a spear was found in the hand of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan. Only Saul and his sons had weapons. Now a garrison of the Philistines had gone out to the ravine pass of Michmash. Okay. 1 Samuel 14. One day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to his attendant, carrying his weapons, "Come and let us cross over to the Philistine outposts on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah under the pomegranate tree in Migron, and there were about 600 men with him. And Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, the brother of Ichabod, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the priest of Jehovah in Shiloh, was carrying. Sorry. I had a tangle in my hair. I didn't realize I was going through it, and I just kept going. Oh, that hurt. Was carrying the ephod. And the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Now, between the passengers that Jonathan was trying to cross over to reach the outpost of the Philistines, there was a tooth-like crag on one side and a tooth-like crag on the other side. The name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other was Seneh. The one crag was a pillar on the north facing Michmash, and the other was on the south facing Geba. So Jonathan said to his armor bearer, Come and let us cross over to the outpost of these uncircumcised men. Perhaps Jehovah will act in our behalf. For nothing can hinder Jehovah from saving by many or by few. At this, his armor bearer said to him, Do whatever your heart impels you to do. Turn wherever you wish, and I will follow you wherever your heart impels you. Then Jonathan said, We will cross over to those men to reveal our presence to them. If they say to us, Stand still until we come to you, we will stand where we are and not go up to them. But if they say, Come against us, we will go up, because Jehovah will give them into our hand. This will be our sign. Then both of them revealed their presence to the outpost of the Philistines. The Philistines said, Look, the Hebrews are coming out from the holes where they have been hiding. So the men of the outpost said to Jonathan and his armor bearer, Come up to us, and we will teach you a lesson. At once Jonathan said to his armor bearer, Follow me, for Jehovah will give them into the hand of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up on his hands and feet, and the armor bearer was behind him. And the Philistines began to fall before Jonathan, and his armor bearer was putting them to death behind him. In the first attack that Jonathan and his armor bearer made, they struck down about 20 men within about half the plowing line in an acre of the field. Then terror spread in the fields camp and among the people of the outpost, and even the raiding parties were terrified. The earth began quaking, and a terror from God ensued. Saul's watchmen in Gibeah of Benjamin saw that the turmoil was spreading in every direction. Saul said to the people with him, Take account, please, and see who has left us. Hold on one sec. Then terror spread in the field camp and among all the people of the outpost, and even the raiding parties were terrified. The earth began quaking, and a terror from God ensued. Saul's watchmen in Gibeah of Benjamin saw that the turmoil was spreading in every direction. Saul said to the people with him, Take account, please, and see who has left us. When they took the count, they saw that Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. Saul now saw that Saul now said to Ahijah, Bring the ark of the true God near. For the ark of the true God was with the Israelites at that time. And while Saul was speaking to the priest, the turmoil in the camp of the Philistines was growing greater and greater. Then Saul said to the priest, Stop what you are doing. So Saul and the people with him assembled and went into the battle, where they found that the Philistines had turned their swords against one another, and the confusion was very great. Also the Hebrews, who had previously sided with the Philistines and who had come up with them into the camp, were going over to Israel under Saul and Jonathan. All the men of Israel who had hidden in the mountainous region of Ephraim heard that the Philistines had fled, and they too joined in pursuing them in the battle. So Jehovah saved Israel on that day, and the battle extended as far as Bethaven. But the men of Israel were hard pressed on that day, for Saul had put the people under his oath. Cursed is the man who eats any food before the evening, and until I have taken vengeance on my enemies. So none of the people ate any food. Sorry. Uh, but the men of Israel were hard pressed on that day, for Saul had put the people under his oath. Cursed is the man who eats any food before the evening until I have taken vengeance on my enemies. So none of the people ate any food. And all the people came into the forest, and there was honey on the ground. When the people came into the forest, they saw the honey dripping, but no one would put his hand to his mouth because they feared the oath. But Jonathan had not heard his father put the people under an oath. So he stretched out the tip of his staff that was in his hand and dipped it into the honeycomb. When he drew his hand back to his mouth, his eyes brightened. At this, one of the people said, "Your father put the people under a strict oath, saying, 'Cursed is the man who eats food today.' That is why the people are so tired." However, Jonathan said, "My father has brought great trouble on the land. Look at how my eyes brightened because I tasted this little bit of honey. How much better if the people had eaten freely today from the spoil of their enemies that they found. For then the slaughter of the Philistines would have been even greater." On that day they kept striking down the Philistines from Michmash to Aijalon, and the people became very tired. So the people began rushing greedily at the spoil, and they took sheep and cattle and calves and slaughtered them on the ground, and they ate the meat along with the blood. So it was reported to Saul, "Look, the people are sinning against Jehovah by eating meat with the blood." At this he said, "You have acted faithlessly. Roll a large stone to me immediately." Saul then said, "Spread out among the people, and say to them, each of you must bring his bull and his sheep and slaughter them here, and then eat them. Do not sin against Jehovah by eating meat with the blood." So each of them brought his bull with him that night and slaughtered it there. And Saul built an altar to Jehovah. This was the first altar that he built to Jehovah. Saul later said, "Let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder them until the morning light. We will not leave a single survivor." To this they said, "Do whatever seems good in your eyes." Then the priest said, "Let us approach the true God here." And Saul inquired of God, Should I go down after the Philistines? Will you give them into the hand of Israel?" But God did not answer him on that day. So Saul said, "Come here, for all you chiefs of the people, and find out what sin has been committed today. For as surely as Jehovah is alive, who rescued Israel, even if it turns out to be Jonathan, my son, he must die." But none of the people would answer him. Um, so Saul said, "Come here, all you chiefs of the people, and find out what sin you committed today. For as surely as Jehovah is alive, who rescued Israel, even if it turns out to be Jonathan, my son, he must die." But none of the people of Israel answered him. And he said to all Israel, "You will be on one side, and my son Jonathan and I will be on the other side." And at this the people said to Saul, "Do whatever is good in your eyes." Saul then said to Jehovah, "O God of Israel, answer with the Thummim." Then Jonathan and Saul were selected, and the people went free. Saul now said, "Cast lots to decide between me and my son Jonathan." And Jonathan was selected. So Saul said to Jonathan, "Tell me, what have you done?" So Jonathan told him, "I merely tasted a little honey on the tip of the staff in my hands. Here I am, ready to die." At this Saul said, "Thus may God do, and may he add it to if you do not die, Jonathan." But the people said to Saul, "Should Jonathan die, the one who brought this great victory to Israel? It is unthinkable. As surely as Jehovah is alive, not even a single hair of his head should fall to the ground. For it was with God he acted this day." With that, the people rescued Jonathan, and he did not die. So Saul stopped pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own territory. Saul secured the kingship over Israel and fought against all his enemies on every side against the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the kings of Zobah, and the Philistines, and wherever he went, he defeated them. And he fought bravely and conquered the Amalekites, and rescued Israel from the hand of their plunderers. The sons of Saul were Jonathan, Ishvi, Makishura, and the two daughters of the same. The name of the older one was Merab, and the name of the younger one Michael. The name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, and the daughter of Ahimaaz. The name of the chief of his army was Abner, the son of Ner, the uncle of Saul. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. There was fierce warfare in the Philistines on all the days of Saul. When Saul saw a strong or courageous man, he would recruit him into his service. Samuel 15. I think I said 16 is where I'm going. Yeah. Then Samuel said to Saul, Jehovah sent me to anoint you as king over his people Israel. Now listen to what Jehovah has to say. This is what Jehovah of armies says. I will call to account the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they opposed them along their coming up from Egypt. Now go and strike down the Amalekites and devote them to destruction, along with all that they have. You must not spare them. You are to gut them to death, man as well as woman, child as well as infant, bull as well as sheep, camel as well as donkey. Saul summoned the people and counted them in Telaim. There were about 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. Saul advanced as far as the city of Amalek and set an ambush by the valley. Saul then said to the Kenites, Go, depart from them, from among the Amalekites, so that I do not sweep you away from them. For you showed loyal love to all the people of Israel at the time they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from the midst of Amalek. After that, Saul struck down the Amalekites from Amalek from Havilah as far as Shur, which is next to Egypt. He caught Agag, the king of Amalek, alive, but the other people he devoted to destruction with the sword. However, Saul and the people spared. Agag was the best of the flock. The herd, the flattened animal, the rams, and all that was good. Sorry, I'm getting really sleepy. However, Saul and the people spared. Agag was the best of the flock, the herd, the fattened animals, the rams, and all that was good. They did not want to devote them to destruction, but all the goods that were worthless and unwanted, these were devoted to destruction. Then the word of Jehovah came to Samuel. I regret that I have made Saul king, for he has turned away from following me, and he has not carried out my words. Samuel became very upset, and he began crying to Jehovah all night long. When Samuel got up early in the morning to meet Saul, Samuel was told Saul went to Carmel, and there he erected a monument for himself. Then he turned around and went down to Gilgal. When Samuel finally came to him, Saul said to him, May Jehovah bless you. I have carried out the word of Jehovah. But Samuel said, Then what is the sound of the flock in my ears and the sound of the cattle that I hear? Sorry. Just this, Saul said, They were brought from the Amalekites because the people spared the best of the flock and the herd for sacrificing them to Jehovah your God. But what was left we devoted to destruction. At this, Samuel said to Jehovah, "Stop. Let me tell you what Jehovah said to me last night." So he said to him, "Speak." Samuel continued, "Were you not insignificant in your own eyes when you were made head of the tribes of Israel and when Jehovah anointed you as king over Israel? Jehovah later sent you on a mission and said, 'Go and devote the sinful Amalekites to destruction. Fight against them until you have exterminated them.' So why did you not obey the voice of Jehovah? Instead, you rushed greedily toward the spoil and did what was bad in the eyes of Jehovah." However, Saul said to Samuel, "But I have obeyed the voice of Jehovah. I went on the mission to which Jehovah sent me, and I brought back Agag, the king of Amalek, and he devoted the Amalekites to destruction. But the people took sheep and cattle from the spoil, the best of what was devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to Jehovah, your God, at Gilgal." Samuel then said, "Does Jehovah take as much pleasure in burnt offering and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Jehovah? Look, to obey is better than a sacrifice, and to pay attention than the fat of rams, for rebelliousness is the same as the sin of divination." Um, Same as sin and divination, and pushing ahead presumptuously, the same as using magical power and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Jehovah, he has rejected you from being king. Then Saul said to Samuel, "I have sinned, for I have overstepped the order of Jehovah and your words, because I feared the people and listened to what they said. And now please pardon my sin and return with me, so that I may bow down to Jehovah." But Samuel said to Saul, "I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of Jehovah, and Jehovah has rejected you from continuing as king over Israel." As Samuel was turning to go, Saul grabbed hold of the hem of his sleeveless coat, but it ripped away. At this, Samuel said to him, "Jehovah has ripped away the royal rule of Israel from you today, and will give it to the one of your fellow men who is better than you. Moreover, the excellency of Israel will not prove false or change his mind, for he is not a mere man that he should change his mind." At this he said, "I have sinned, but honor me, please, in front of the elders of my people and in front of Israel. Return with me, and I will bow down to Jehovah your God." So Samuel returned behind Saul, and Saul bowed down to Jehovah. And Samuel said, Bring Agag, the king of Amalek, near to me." Then Agag went to him reluctantly, for Agag had been saying to himself, "Surely the threat of death is past." However, Samuel said, "Just as your sword has been bereaved, just as your sword has bereaved women and children, so your mother will be most bereaved among women." With that, Samuel hacked Agag to pieces before Jehovah and at Gilgal. Samuel now went to Ramah, and Paul went up to his own house at Gibeah of Saul. Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, for Samuel went into mourning for Saul. And 1 Samuel 16. Yep. Oops, it's 15, 16. Jehovah eventually said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul, now that I have rejected him from ruling over the king as king of Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, because I have selected from among his sons a king for myself." But Samuel said, "How can I go? When Saul hears about it, he will kill me." Jehovah said, "Take a young cow with you and say, 'I have come to sacrifice to Jehovah.' Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, then I will make known to you what to do. You must anoint for me the one whom I designate to you." Okay. Samuel did what Jehovah said. When he came to Bethlehem, the elders of the city were trembling at meeting him. And they said, "Does your coming mean peace?" To this he said, "It means peace. I have come to sacrifice to Jehovah. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice." Then he sanctified Jesse and his sons, after which he summoned them to the sacrifice. As they came in, and and he saw Eliab, he said, "Surely here before Jehovah stands his anointed one." But Jehovah said to Samuel, "Do not pay attention to his appearance and see how tall he is, for I have rejected him. For the way man sees is not the way God sees, because mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but Jehovah sees into the heart." Then Jesse called Abinadab, and he had him pass before Samuel. But he said, "Jehovah has not chosen this one either." Next Jesse presented Shammah, but he said, "Jehovah has not chosen this one either." So Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to Jesse, "Jehovah has not chosen any of these." Finally Samuel said to Jesse, "Are all these of your boys?" To this he said, "The youngest has been left out until now. He is pasturing the sheep." Then Samuel said to Jesse, "Send for him, because we will not sit down for the meal until he comes here." So he sent for him and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, with beautiful eyes and handsome in appearance. Then Jehovah said, "Get up, anoint him, for this is the one." So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him, and in the presence of his brothers, and the Spirit of Jehovah began to empower David from that day forward. Samuel later rose and went his way to Ramah. Now the Spirit of Jehovah had departed from Saul, and a bad spirit from Jehovah terrorized him. The servants of Saul, said to him, "You see that a bad spirit from God is terrorizing you. Let our Lord please command your servants before you to look for a man who is skilled at playing the harp. Whenever a bad spirit from God comes upon you, he will play it, and you will feel better." So Saul said to his servants, "Find me, please, a man who plays well, and bring him to me." One of the attendants said, "Look, I have seen how a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, plays skillfully, and he is a courageous, mighty warrior. He can speak well, and he is handsome, and Jehovah is with him." Saul then sent messengers to Jesse and said, "Send to me son David, who is with you." Or, sorry, with the flock. So Jesse loaded a donkey with bread, a skin bottle of wine, and a young goat, and sent them to Saul with his son David. Thus David came to Saul and began serving him. Saul grew to love him very much, but he became his armor bearer, and he became his armor bearer. Saul sent a message to Jesse, "Please let David remain in my service, for he has found favor in my eyes." Whenever a bad spirit from God came upon Saul, David took the harp and played it, and Saul found relief and felt better, and the bad spirit would depart from him. And that is the end of Samuel 16. Let's go ahead and close. All right. AV28.